another special edition. Happy New Year to the Southern Utah Hockey Report. I'm Gabe Goche with Tommy Rupp. Guys, we have a special interview. This is an awesome moment, able to have Vignieri-Greener and Nick Robone, both coaches from UNLV ACHA Men's Division I hockey team. Both of these gentlemen I've known for 10 years once they got that program started. But again, just a special interview to have both of these gentlemen on the podcast and to talk hockey and to talk about growing the sport. So Greener, Robone, thank you guys for joining the podcast here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, as many listeners know, like you guys are the coaches of UNLV ACHA Division I. What a lot of people don't know is how you guys got started, how long you've actually been coaching and running the program. And that's why I wanted to bring you guys on to share your journey and your story. So Greener, take us back to 2014 and Pat Hartman handed you guys over the team to you, Z and Nick. Just tell us about how everything got started in 2014.
Yeah, I remember Arturo Castro was saying that they were making a coaching change, and myself, Coach Nick, we met Arturo. I remember I was at Born and Raised, and he just kind of pitched his vision of what the program could look like, and it's kind of took a few steps back. And I remember leaving that meeting, I was like, I just don't know. I remember talking to Nick, like things what could have been, but just a few other things had to fall into place. And like their previous coach was on the way out; they were looking for a new one. Just recruiting stuff. There was a million things that myself and Coach Nick probably thought about before. And then after leaving that meeting, they made it quick to the jobs. And, it's been a long journey with a lot of ups and downs. But I think we've learned a lot over the years between myself, Coach Nick, and everybody, our donors, the community, to get us to where we're at now. And the job's not done yet. We have a vision of where this program can and will be at one day, and we're just working towards it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that too, like Nick, you guys were at the university. You are students there prior to being the coaches of the team, but then you guys were also playing some adult league hockey and roller hockey. How did you end up like getting into coaching, and what drove you to work with Greener?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really start coaching until probably the year before I took the UNLV job with Anthony. When I started with Micah coaching the Bantam AA team with the Las Vegas Storm, and then the next year we coached the AA team, and and then that's kind of when Arturo approached me, and I've known Arturo for a long time, and obviously I've known Anthony a little bit as well. So I think I caught the bug early. And I think that was really a big thing was I really wanted to learn the game a bit more. I wanted to, pick your brain. I was always picking Micah's brain. I mean, for 2 years, I pretty much lived at the Las Vegas Ice Center and would chat with you and Matt Johnson and Micah and, everybody that was just willing to chat. And I think that was a big part of, me kind of just getting a foundation for the game a little bit more than I had already previously had. So it was important. Those are big years for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm always curious, I heard a story one time, with Barry Trotz, who's now the general manager of the Nashville Predators. But I remember when he was one of the first coaches hired in that organization, and he always makes the joke about the story about they pretty much had a room and a phone when they first began. And it's so weird to think about an NHL organization starting from the ground up, and you think, okay, well, they got millions of dollars, so it must be top of the class living, everything like that. And here you have Barry Trotz going, wow, we have a room and a phone. This question's for both of you. What was kind of that first memory with UNLV hockey when it was first kind of transferred over to you guys? Versus kind of what it is now. What's one thing you can remember back then when you're starting it? You're like, oh man, this is what we're starting, bare bones, scratch. I don't know, what's one of those memories that you guys both have that's kind of unique. You look back on now, it's like, wow, look how far we've come.
Yeah, for me, it's unique because the first couple of years, we were just brought in to coach. Arturo and Z ran things. And, I was quiet. I was a younger guy at that time. Didn't really say much. I think that, there was probably some doubt in my mind of like where this could be. And this is not a knock on them. It's just how some of the situations were handled. But at that point, I was just brought there to coach. So I didn't really say much. But it was just, I remember we had a kind of like this open skate. And I'm just like, what did I get myself into? Kind of thing. I was just like, and probably Nick could probably touch on it more, but I remember losing the first game and I'm just like, what in the world? Like I wanted to be there. I wanted to succeed, but I'm just like, this is going to be a lot more work than I thought. And then, after that, we kind of peeled off a bunch of wins. And then I'm looking, I'm like, all right, we're okay. But it was just a learning curve of like, there were some kids there that were there to kind of just go through the motions, I guess, maybe just go have fun. And when Nick and myself got there, that's just I don't know. It's not in my DNA. I can't stand losing. I want to be the best at anything. If I played. Excuse my language. I played pickleball yesterday. I played 3 times in my life. And, like I'm playing against everybody else. I don't want to lose at anything. So that was for me. It was just, hey, let's get some guys in that we know and that want to be here and want to win right now and kind of want to put in the work and make this a legitimate program like it was in years past. That's my kind of go at it.
Right on. What about you, Nick?
I mean, we were pretty much left with like nothing, to be honest with you. So when we first brought in the program, it had been on the decline for a few years, and I think Anthony and I only had maybe I 6 or 7 guys that were returning from the previous year, if that. And so yeah, we had the open tryout, and Gabe, I think you kind of mentioned this like when you did your last podcast, but we had a kid that kind of just rolled in like a legitimate suitcase with gear. And that's when I looked at Anthony and I'm like, okay, we have to legitimately go out there and recruit players because we clearly can't just throw an open tryout for whoever's at the university. I mean, this kid was, he was a first time house league guy, and I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew that wasn't the product we were looking to put on the ice. And so that's when Anthony and I started to reach out to players that we had coached here, growing up or that we had known growing up. And we had got some pretty good local guys at the time. And we brought in a player from the BCHL, and he was a stud for us in that first year. And yeah, the first 3 games, I mean, we played Utah, who was a very established D2 team at the time. They'd gone to nationals, and they kicked the shit out of us at the Las Vegas Ice Center. And I was with Anthony, like I hated to lose, and we knew we needed to be in a better position to compete. But that year was pretty eye opening for us, and I think that was probably one of our better coaching jobs, to be honest with you. We really didn't have much, but we wound up having like 25 wins that season, and we were within a game of making the national tournament, which the program had never done. And then it kind of just moved into and progressed into something so much better as we recruited players that were legitimate and that really wanted to be here for the right reasons.
Yeah, and you talk about being there for the right reasons, and Greener Bones. I had the same issue of being in Vegas and the distractions and all that. But just talk about what differentiates your program from the Vegas distractions. Like, what do players expect when they put on a Rebel jersey or when they come to UNLV? And then where are those players going to be going after they come through you?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, I think we've learned a lot. We've kind of evolved. I know personally myself, the first couple of years, I would try to recruit a kid, didn't vet at all, didn't talk to his parents, didn't talk to the coaches, and if he had skill and he just for example, he played in the AJ, I'm okay, and I can get him here. We brought him here, and it kind of hurt us more than helped us at times, if that makes sense.
Yep.
They were here for the wrong reasons, and so I think that's one thing that myself and Nick and everyone else who's coached here has done a much better job of making sure we're vetting players to bringing them in to follow our culture, what we wanted. We want morals and values. We want kids to be great on the ice, but even better in the community. So when a player comes here, one of our things is we want to make the program better than he found it, and that goes for all the players that walk through here. just that, we had a huge win this past weekend, and I'd probably say at least 30 kids that previously played for us have wrote us and like, hey, listen, that's amazing. And, I just wrote them back like, hey, you're just as much a part of it as anybody else. You were a pioneer to kind of get us on this track.
For sure. And with that, when you're talking about, we'll jump into that, because obviously the whole nation knows, all of college hockey knows that UNLV took down University of Denver, my alma mater, defending national champion, ranked number 5. Now we'll get into the game part, but talk about the preparation. And Nick, I'll go to you first on this, because you guys originally were exhibitioning. You had an exhibition with them back in 2022, and you dropped 10 rip. So talk about setting that game up and then coming back 2 years later and getting that new set of games. How'd that work?
Well, I mean, to be frank, Anthony and I had never coached a Division I game before, that 10-0 game. So, we didn't really know what the speed of the game was really like, what the skill set was really like. We obviously knew that they were great players, NHL draft picks and everything like that. But to see it up close and in person, it gives you a better understanding of, where your guys can actually compete and make a difference in the game. And I think that we were able to get some other Division I games that year, playing Alaska Anchorage. And we really kind of changed up our approach to how we were going to forecheck, how we were going to defend, what we were going to really sell our guys on in terms of how we were going to try and generate offense. And it really showed, even in that first game versus Anchorage, they waxed a 7-0. And then we come out the next day and it's 2-1. Then they come to Vegas and it's 2-1. And then, going into Lindenwood, that was our first games this year. So it's a little bit different, especially with how many freshmen and transfers that we have. But we still had an idea of exactly how we wanted to play. And then the sell to our guys, for the Denver game was, hey, we're going to make their life a living hell. We're going to make it super hard. We're going to compete our ass off, and, we're going to make them go through layers and layers, and we're not going to give up any odd man rushes. If they're going to score goals, it's going to be because they outworked us in the zone, or, maybe it was on the power play, but we're not going to give them anything for free. And obviously, everything kind of really had to fall into place for us to pull that game out, and it did. So, but yeah, I think that we've learned a lot as coaches since that first 10 rip game, as opposed to how we approach the Division I games now. And I do think that our team is much more bought into what we want to establish from a systems perspective than it was 2 years ago.
No, that's awesome. And I'm always curious, like, now, when you think about the locker room, it's kind of a sacred category of hockey, right? Like we all know the quote, what goes in the locker room stays in the locker room. But I think for a one-time exception to think about the magnitude of what you guys just pulled off against your opponent, what did you even say in the locker room before the game, and what did you say after the game? I'm so curious towards that, just because it's like there's got to be a certain shadow of doubt when you go into a game like that, right? I mean, it's almost like, okay, obviously, like you said, they've got NHL draft picks, they're on national television, everything like that. What was the message before the game that led your players out there to play as confidently as they did? And then what was it like after the game in that locker room? And if you could even find words, what were those words?
I think that Coach Nick touched on a bit of it. There's a lot of preparation involved. So one of the things we said all week was like, let's just embrace this opportunity. It's a huge opportunity, so let's embrace it. And we're going to work our bags off to make sure that there's nothing easy. They're going to score a goal, like you said. They're going to go through layers and layers, and we're going to compete every single shift. And then if you fast forward through the game, there were so many ups and downs in the game. It was a roller coaster of emotion. Jumping up to a huge lead and kind of blowing a lead and then kind of hanging on there. And then you have Dells winning in overtime as, a senior. For me personally, I remember, he scores, the place kind of just goes silent for a second. The only thing you hear is, our guys celebrate. We celebrated as a staff, and there was actually a fan behind me that was giving it to me all game long. I don't know what he was, every time I looked at him, he give me the cutthroat and thumbs down. I'm just like, okay, man. So I remember looking back at him, didn't say much, and he just had his hands in his head like this, like like what just happened. And so that memory is going to stick with me forever personally, just because he was feeding to me all game long. And then, as a staff, we celebrated with them and waited for them to come in and kind of let them have a moment. We talked briefly in the little coach's room there. And then one thing I said when there was like, hey, listen, you just shocked the world. You did something that nobody will ever take away from you. So if it's 20 years, 5 years, this group right here did something so special. And I told him, and it was honest. I said, besides getting married and having kids, it's probably one of my proudest moments of being around a group like this that, sacrificed their Christmas vacation, practice when they didn't want to practice, going to work out. Again, like they didn't have a Christmas break. A lot of people don't understand. Like for us, this is the first time in 9 years that they didn't get to go home for 3 years or 3 weeks, excuse me. So for them to sacrifice everything they've done and then to have it pay off like that in a moment like that, in a stage like that, and really truly embrace the moment, it was something special. That's for sure.
That is awesome. Nick.
Yeah. I mean, we're a very, go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah. Would you have, and just talk about that moment too?
Yeah. Well, I think we're a very process focused group, not outcome at all. Even when we're playing in our ACHA games, like we have 10 goals that we're trying to hit every game. We have our identity that we want to play to every single game. And, that was one of the things that we talked about prior was like, we're not focused on the outcome. Whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. Like you have to just focus on, your shift, your battle. We say it all the time. We play the game in 5-minute increments. We're always preaching, win this 5, win the next 5. We want to, because we really want our guys to like stay in that moment, right? We don't want them thinking ahead. And I think they really bought into that. That was big for us. It's just that they understood that, we're not going to win this game in the first 5 minutes, but we're not going to lose it in the first 5 minutes either. So we want to stay composed and we want to stay defensively sound. So I think that was kind of the message going into it as well. It was also like, we're a good hockey team. Doesn't matter ACHA, Division 3, Division 1. Like we sold our guys on like we are a good fucking team. Like we're a couple goals away from beating a Division 1 team already this year. So I think that was kind of the sell, is like building that confidence. We're really big on playing with moxie and swagger and everything like that, and we wanted them to have that moxie and that swagger going into the game, and whatever the outcome was, the outcome was. And then after the game, I don't know, I blacked out after Dell scored. Like I don't really remember a whole lot. It was. I just looked at Jeremy Foreman, our goalie. I thought he was going to pass out coming off the ice. And then in the locker room, I mean, I wish we could have just partied that night instead of having to play CC the next day. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know that the moment should have just ended there and just said, CC, we'll see you next year. So, but still, like you mentioned is the expectations. And I heard something that you talked about is objectives, right? You have game objectives and tasks that the team has to essentially execute to win a game. So Anthony, tell me about that coaching strategy. Like as far as what are you holding your players accountable to? What are the objectives of the game that you feel would give your team the best chance to win?
Well, there we did a lot of film. Coach Nick did a great job. We, reached out to previous players, watched DU play a handful of games, and we knew that we couldn't. We were going to take 2-on-2s till we were blue in the face. We had to slow them down. We weren't going to give them odd man breaks. They're just a super skilled team. You get that many guys that high in draft picks, the skill level's through the roof, and we know their skill is. We're outmatched there. So we talked about it all week. We were going to run kind of a 1-2-2 with foosball. Always going to have guys fighting to get above the puck. We were going to make sure that our F3 was always above their center, and we were backtracking all the way to the goal line. And then, like Coach Nick mentioned on it a few times, we were going to shrink the zone and making sure we were defensively sound and kind of just make sure they're going to beat us in layers. So I think we've learned a lot as a staff, as a whole staff, from playing DU 2 years ago, going in there, just kind of thinking it was going to be a track meet, which never going to happen with a team that skilled. So I think that we had to be extreme attention to detail on our end as a staff and get it out to portray it to the captains and have everybody buy in that we were going to be defensively sound. And we're making sure that, like I said, we were going to stay above the puck. So for us, that's just not how we normally play. It's just, in our league where we want to play fast. We want to go north right away. We want to be quick in transition. But with a team like that, it's kind of a tactical battle, I guess you would say, just to make sure we're putting our players in the best possible scenario to try to compete in a hockey game.
Absolutely. And with that too, obviously, you guys have two goaltenders, and Nick, you said that Foreman almost blacked out or like looked like he was going to pass out after the game, which I think he had 67 shots or something through overtime. How did you guys decide on Foreman going in that game over Wakeland, and talk about just your goaltender rotation this year as a team?
Yeah, I'll jump in
Nick.
there. Oh yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, well, Greener is the one that pretty much chats with the goalies on who's going. But basically, I can just reiterate the story is that, Doug's dad played for CC. So I think Doug really wanted to play that CC game for sure as just like an opportunity to kind of be part of the legacy with Colorado College and his dad and everything like that. So we gave him the choice between Denver and Colorado College, and obviously he picked Colorado College. So that left Jeremy the task of playing DU. And Jeremy's the type of kid who wants to know as soon as it's possible that he's playing. So as soon as that decision was made, we gave Jeremy the heads up. You know how goalies are; they're interesting guys. But both of them, and even our third goalie Fundy, like they compete so hard at practice. Like they make us so much better. I think that sometimes we actually probably lack like confidence in scoring because these guys keep the puck out of the net so well at practice. They just compete. They're always prepared. Like they're the type of guys that are going to push each other, but they're also great friends. So I think that's what I love the most about it is, the camaraderie between the three goalies, but also their work ethic and their buy-in and everything like that. But no task is too tall for either of those guys. We're confident in whoever's in net for us.
I love it. So now I'm curious because you're starting to see a shift in hockey eligibility and the opportunities and where you can go play, right? Like the prime example that everyone's been talking about is not losing your college eligibility after you play major, junior, or whatever. But I also think what's evolving with that not enough people are talking about is you take a program like UNLV, D1 ACHA. I said this to Gabe on our last podcast. I'm actually talking to more parents that have kids decommitting from NCAA schools and going to Division I ACHA schools because of amenities or anything like that. And I think the value to that is everyone thinks there's an algorithm to making a perfect hockey player, right? If your kid is this good by this age and in this location, no matter what, you're good, you're going to make it. Well, with all of these things changing across the leagues and the amount of opportunities you can get to market your teams now, especially like playing a team like Denver University on a national scale, that's going to create more opportunities for your guys' program. You're probably going to get more calls about your players. You're probably going to get a lot more exposure that's allowed to be marketed to other players that you're trying to recruit to bring in. What is your guys' tactic when you recruit to land some of those players that may be quote unquote on the outside of someone's vision on a Division I NCAA school or Division III NCAA school? Walk us through your process as to how you guys recruit players to ultimately come to a program for the future chance at an opportunity that may be non-traditional. And I'll start with you, Anthony, and then Nick, you can follow up after that if you want. But
I think for us is we want to make sure that we're bringing in the right kid, that he's going to buy into our culture right away. We've worked really hard to get the culture where it's at. So we're going to vet a lot. We're going to call coaches, talk to players. One of our things is our players are our best recruiters just because they know what the player is like on and off the ice. Is he going to be good in school? So that's step one, especially for me. Like I just got off a kid that's playing in the USHL. He's got a few small D1 offers, but he might not want to go that route just because of one, financially. It's only going to be probably a partial, if anything. And then just the atmosphere and what he wants to play in and what he sees as his college career. For us, I think that, the ACHA is growing. The top 10 teams in the league are really good hockey teams. Now, is there some leagues or teams in our league that aren't very good? Yeah. But for the top 10, maybe top 20 teams now, because the parity in the league is growing, there's going to be some good hockey. So when we recruit players, obviously we're going to vet them, make sure that they're going to fit in. Skill levels, kind of just fill our gaps. Like last year, we had 12 seniors. So we had to do a lot of work on filling the holes that we needed to fill. This year, it's going to be a lot easier, but because we're not losing as many guys. But we're going to see, we'll see how this new CHL rule pans out and kind of go from there. But we're going to bring kids in that want to win right now, that are going to know they have to compete. Nothing's going to give to them. They're going to earn every single thing, and they're going to buy in. And then last thing for us is making sure that their grades are good and they're going to be good in the community.
That's awesome. And what about you, Nick?
Well, I think obviously Greener touched on the vetting process of these players, but if there's guys that we really, every player that we're talking to, we want to sell them on what we're able to give. And I think that the number one thing is we're able to provide a first-class college hockey experience, like end of story. Whether you're looking at NCAA, ACHA, whatever it may be, we want guys that want to come here, but also we're able to give them what they really want, what is structure and an opportunity to play for national championships. And then obviously, the schooling is great. You're going to come here and get a phenomenal degree from UNLV. And, 9 times out of 10, you're going to leave here debt free because of the cost. And then, there's 200 different undergraduate degrees to choose from, another 50 graduate degrees to choose from. So when you're weighing like maybe a D3 school or ACHA, we always tell them like, hey, we want you to look at the big picture here. It's not going to be for everyone, but at the end of the day, a lot of these D3 schools cost a lot of money. The atmosphere might not be great, and you're certainly not living in a city like Las Vegas. You don't have to. There's no shoveling sunshine, right? So you're going to come here in January, and it's going to be beautiful weather, and you're going to have a great experience on and off the ice. And then 9 times out of 10, if they get here on a recruiting visit, like they're staying. So we're very confident in how we recruit, who we recruit, and the experience that we're able to provide these guys.
I love it. And with that too, you mentioned your third goaltender, Luke Fundater. You also have another local kid who scored the DU game, Heath Mensch. And I remember these kids, they were just starting off in the program of the Storm. So I'd love to hear how you guys have seen the progression of youth hockey grow from when you first started to where it is now. And then talk about how UNLV embraces the community of youth hockey. And Greener, I'll go to you there first.
You could just see it from the numbers aspect of it. Before the Knights and a while back, they got this huge burst when the Knights came. And the skill level of these kids now, I think a lot of it has to do with coaching, the amenities. Now there's not just 1 or 2 sheets of ice. I think they're getting skill work from high-end level coaches in the morning. They're able to play like high-end teams. They're putting an actual program together. So to see Fundy and Heater kind of work their way up through Vegas means a lot to me, just being here for as long as I've been. That means we're doing something right as a city. There is there room to grow and get better in that aspect? Yeah, 100%. But from when I was just moved to Vegas and whatnot, and to see it now, it's night and day. And so now you're going to see kids that instead of want to leave right away, that was the process when I played hockey, is like, hey, you get to a certain point, you're good enough. All right, you got to get out of Vegas because there's nothing here for you. So if you wanted to move on to the next level, we don't have to have that anymore. Like, we have the teams put in place. We have the coaching. Now, there's a junior team here. We have our college team here. There's going to be an NA team here in 2 years. So it's progressing in the right way. And I think it all stems from back, when Fundy and Heater, that group of kids of just learning and want to be in the game. And then the Knights coming, and it all transitioned to one big thing, which has helped our program tremendously.
And Nick, how do you keep the boys engaged in the community, and what are some things that your players are doing to continue to also draw more fan base?
Great question. We try and do as much in the community as possible, because at the end of the day, like, people aren't coming to see me or Greener. They're coming to see these players, and they want to interact with these guys. And it's a really big, it's something that we task our guys with each year. And it's like a non-negotiable, right? They have to get out in the community, and it's my job and Greener's job to put, events in place to do that. So some of the things that we do is, we'll visit probably 6 to 7 elementary schools throughout the year. And we'll invite them to our games and utilize that as a fundraiser for them. And we'll go early, go to the pep rallies. We'll do Nevada Reading Week. Any opportunity that we can to go with the schools. That's number one. And then number two is, we'll put on as many clinics and camps and things like that as we can. I think that's a really big thing too, is that the youth hockey parents here, they just, whether the kids they're not going to become superstars overnight at a 2-day camp, but what they are going to do is they're going to remember the awesome experience they had with our players after scoring a shootout goal and doing a celly. And then all my players are going over there and, they're tapping them on the head and celebrating with them. Like, that's a memory that these kids are going to keep forever. So those are really big things with us. And then I think, like, lastly, we do something called Skate with the Rebels. That's a really big one too. Like, we'll bring our whole team out. It's totally free. People can come, they'll skate with the team, they'll get the autograph signed. So, I mean, we did it this year and we probably had 400 or 500 people that came out for our inter squad game and our Skate with the Rebels. So I think it's something that you can't not do. It's a non-negotiable. There's always so many things to do in Vegas that you have to be able to give people a reason to come to your games. They're not just going to show up.
Exactly. I love to hear that. And what you said is non-negotiable. That's spot on. It's like, it's the expectation that when you come to this organization, these are the things that you're going to be a part of to grow the game, but also to grow the sport in the community. So I love it. And Greener, I know you got to get going to a birthday party here. So I want to end part one here with talking to you about the path UNLV has taken and where you guys want to go here in the near future. So you guys have gone from ACHA D3. You've now moved up to D1. You came a game away from being national champions. Ultimate goal, is that to be Division I NCAA? What is the ultimate goal here for the Running Rebels?
Yeah, I think right now, for our group right now, is we want to win right now. Whatever happens outside, it happens. Yes, I would love, there's nothing more that I think Nick's on the same page with me. We would love to see us make the jump and be a Division I program. If I'm here, if Nick's here, I just want to see it happen. From all the guys that put in the time and, like the donors, the community, I think they overall deserve it. Will it happen tomorrow? I don't know. Will Nick and I continue to push every button we can to make this program bigger and better every year? Yes. So I think right now, for me, short answer, we want to win right now. We have people put in place to find us a new home. I think that starts with it. If we can get a new rink, we've kind of outgrown CNA. Find a new home and then make the jump.
What are you guys averaging for fans right now? Like you said, you're growing out of CNA. Like, what does that mean? Like, do you just have 2,000 fans? What does it look like?
No, I think Nick would know probably more than me because of the numbers, but I think on a busy night, you pack that thing, it's 1,100 people and you can't stand. That's with the restaurant full, every seat next to each other, so we can pack that place and it's kind of intimate in there. So when we score a goal, it goes bananas in there. So we have a great home atmosphere. I know that away teams and away coaches always comment and say, like, man, you guys are a lucky group because sometimes we'll go on the road and there's 50 people in the stands and we got to create our own energy. But when you're a 21-year-old kid living in Vegas, you're playing in front of a packed place like CNA, there's nothing better. But one day this program should and will make the jump to Division I.
I love it. I surely hope so. Because I know you guys have been following the path of ASU and pretty much everyone is kind of looking at that as well too. But biggest thing is just getting more hockey on the West Coast or in the Western US. And what you guys have done recently definitely has made some waves. But what you've done in the last 10 years is truly remarkable. So hats off to you guys, Greener and Bones, for doing that. Like I said, this is going to be part two. So I want to end part one here with you, Anthony. I know you need to get going, but Nick, we'll stay on with you and just talk a little bit more. But stay tuned for part two of this interview with UNLV Running Rebels. I'm Gabe Goche with Tommy Rupp. Thanks for watching.